Deep in the rainforests of Borneo and Sumatra, there's a silent, tireless worker, someone absolutely essential to the life of the entire ecosystem. We're talking about the orangutan, and as you're about to see, they are truly the gardeners of the forest.
I want you to picture a huge, incredibly complex garden, but one that's been left without its gardener. What happens? Well, slowly, the most vibrant plants start to wither. New growth just stops. The whole system begins to fall apart, collapsing into silence. And this isn't just some dramatic thought experiment. It's a very real threat in some of the most important ecosystems on our planet.
So, what really happens when the forest's gardener vanishes? Who is this mystery caretaker we're talking about? Well, the biggest clue is hiding in plain sight, in what they eat every single day. Let's dig in.
All right, so our investigation starts with that clue I mentioned, the daily meal of our mystery gardener.
Okay, so let's meet the orangutan. The name itself literally means person of the forest. And honestly, it's a perfect name. But you know, biologists have another title for them, the ultimate gardeners. And their main gardening tool? It's their incredible, almost insatiable appetite for fruit. And the scale of this gardening work is just staggering. I mean, listen to this. One study found that almost 72%, that's nearly 3/4, of orangutan fecal samples contained seeds that had been dispersed. This is not some random accident. They are constantly, relentlessly, planting the future of the forest with literally every meal they eat.
But you know, it's actually a bit more complicated than just spreading seeds around. Take a look at this breakdown of how they handle fruit. You'll see that a huge chunk of the time, over 42%, they're actually predating, which is a scientific way of saying they chew up and destroy the seeds. That's what makes the 12.5% of seeds they swallow whole so incredibly important. That tiny slice right there, that's the secret sauce. That's the biological magic that makes them such amazing gardeners.
So how does just swallowing a seed turn an ape into the most effective planter in the entire forest? Well, the answer is this amazing secret journey that the seed goes on. There's a cool scientific term for this. It's called endozoochory, but really you can just think of it like a perfectly choreographed dance between a plant and an animal that's been evolving for millions of years. And let me tell you, the orangutan is an absolute master of these steps. Okay, let's follow a single seed on this wild ride. First, it gets eaten along with a big, juicy fruit. Then, inside the orangutan's gut, something amazing happens. It's a process called scarification. The stomach acids start to gently break down the seed's super tough outer shell, kind of getting it ready to sprout. And while all this is happening, the orangutan is on the move, traveling kilometers away from the original tree. And finally, the seed is, well, deposited in a brand new spot, complete with its own personal pile of all-natural fertilizer. I mean, you can't design a more perfect delivery system.
And this is exactly why orangutans are so vital. Think about it. Birds, smaller monkeys, they just can't swallow the huge seeds from the rainforest's giant hardwood trees. Only a big fruit eater, an animal like an orangutan, has the gut, literally, to do the job. And we're talking about the most important trees here, the ones that create the forest canopy, the ones that store massive amounts of carbon.
Now, all this sounds great, right? But you might be thinking, how do we know this is really happening on such a big scale? Well, scientists have come up with some incredible ways to track this whole process. They're basically creating maps, not of where orangutans live, but of where they plant. So, take a look at this map. This shows an orangutan's home range. Those red spots, that's where they spend most of their time. You know, eating, sleeping, hanging out. So your first thought might be, okay, that's where they must be planting all the seeds. But the real story is so much cooler than that.
Okay, now look at this map. This is for the exact same animals, but it's showing something totally different. This, my friends, is their seed shadow. By tracking the orangutans and then calculating how long it takes for a seed to pass through their system, scientists can map out where those seeds actually land. And it's a completely different pattern from where they live. This right here is the real map of the orangutan's garden. It's a blueprint for the forest of tomorrow.
And what's really fascinating is that not all these gardeners work in the same way. The females, well, their movements are a lot more predictable. You could call them the hometown gardeners. They're consistent, making sure their core home areas are always being replanted and kept healthy. But the males, they're the pioneers, the adventurers. Their movements are way more erratic, covering huge distances. They're the ones who might carry a seed to a completely new patch of forest, connecting everything together. You need both. Both roles are absolutely critical.
So, okay, we've seen who the gardener is, we've seen the incredible way they work, but now we have to face the toughest question of all. What happens if we lose them?
This is tough to look at. This graph shows the devastating price they pay when their home is destroyed. As you move to the right on this chart, the forest is more and more damaged. Now, look at those orange bars. That's how much energy an orangutan has to burn just to find food. The more damaged the forest, the higher the bar. As their home disappears, their energy use just skyrockets. They are literally being run into the ground, exhausted, just trying to find enough to eat.
And the science on this is crystal clear. This quote from one of the studies puts it perfectly, but what it boils down to is this. Any change in the orangutan population has a direct knock-on effect on the entire forest. Fewer orangutans means a totally different kind of forest, one that's weaker, less diverse, and much less resilient.
This is what makes the orangutan a textbook keystone species. You know, like the central stone in an arch. If you pull that one stone out, the whole arch collapses. That's the orangutan for the rainforest. They are the living, breathing engine that drives the forest's ability to heal and regrow. Without them, that engine just stalls.
And really, that's the big takeaway here. Saving orangutans isn't just about saving one amazing animal. It's about preserving a biological machine, a complex, irreplaceable process that keeps the entire rainforest healthy. And these are the rainforests we all depend on. They are, quite literally, the lungs of our planet.
So we're left with a pretty sobering question, aren't we? This garden, the rainforest, has had its perfect gardener for millions of years. If we let that gardener disappear, who's going to be left to plant our future?